Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two World Podcast. I am getting us started off today, and I am Barney, and I am joined here today with my co host, and he is
Jacob.
And maybe as a way to kind of grasp a hold of the last few days of summer, we thought that it might be fun to talk about family reunions today, which I think is an event that often happens in summertime or possibly around holidays for sure. But I don't know. This was a topic that I thought would be fun to think about because I'm not sure how much, I don't know, in vogue they are anymore. I know that when I was younger, family reunions happened quite a bit on both sides of my family. But um, as the years have gone by, it feels like family reunions have gotten less frequent, but also become a little bit smaller. But I still think that it is a very worthwhile topic to look into. And I'm curious to see maybe how um, my experiences have related to yours, Jacob, and then very curious to kind of sense how our audience is responding because I'm sure that a lot of people listening or watching along have had some kind of maybe official or unofficial or just impromptu or like kind of routine kind of family reunion um, at least a few times in their lives. And so it'll be fun to kind of unpack this and maybe what are some of the experiences we've had during family reunions? What are the memories that have stuck with us the most? If there's any kind of overlap that we find between the two of us today, and see what else that we can uncover. I think it should be a really fun topic to look into, and um, I know that in my case, just to get the ball rolling, um, my dad's family was a very big family, but kind of stretched out, between Indiana and then lots of people in Virginia and some in Florida. But um, my mom's family, especially on my dad's side, so the Lehman family, a lot of people were in Ohio, well, also Indiana, but primarily Ohio in that area. And so it was much easier to have kind of a consistent family reunion in summertime. And especially taking place in a pretty big venue where lots of people got together. And I don't know if that kind of big family reunion is a unique thing or if it's more common. And so then maybe I'll just start off with this question for you, Jacob. Did you have anything quite so grand as a family, like a really large family reunion with, multiple extensions of cousins and whatnot, and many people that you probably only ever meet at that time of year?
There were three of them that I can think of. Uh, two of the three, I actually have VHS tapes with a lot of footage from them, which was
Well,
really amazing that they exist because and that I still have them.
yeah.
So I was able to digitize them at one point, and so getting ready for today, I was going back and watching old footage and reflecting on it. So basically, we had on my dad's side the the Browns, which is his mom's maiden name. They gathered for the 70th birthday of one of the sisters. There were a number of sisters in the family, and so that was at our home, and so that was a big family reunion that I remember. And then there were two times that the Salih family got together, which was my mom's side of the family, and at those reunions, it was also inclusive of the Dotsons, which would have been my dad and his brother and my grandma who lived next door. And so we had two Dotson Salih family reunions and then one Brown reunion. And most of them happened in the 80s. Two of them happened in the 80s and one of them happened in the 90s. And by that point, I was in high school when the last one happened. And so it was a great experience because at that age, I could really even take in more of what was happening. And all of the intergenerational storytelling and that sense of family identity and passing on things between the grandparents and the parents and the cousins and the aunts and uncles, like just a lot of intergenerational fun and laughter. And so, yeah, so we had three of them. But I will say that I think a family reunion is really contingent upon somebody being a central hub, a unifier, somebody who can pull everybody together and be a planner. I mean, maybe that doesn't have to exist in every situation, but at least in our family, there was somebody like that. Um, my grandmother first on my mom's side, and then kind of my mom came alongside her then for the other reunions. So yeah, I think if somebody like that is not there, if they pass away or they're not able to do it anymore because it's too intensive, it's just very hard to have those types of events. So those are just some initial thoughts. How about for you? How many family reunions do you remember going to, and how old were you, do you think, when you went to them?
Yeah, I remember the layman ones were pretty consistent, and um I don't know when they kind of tapered off. So you make a really good point that that it really kind of takes it takes lots of organizing, and I wonder if if after a few times there's kind of the momentum that is kind of sustainable, maybe self-sustaining, where everyone kind of is anticipating and expecting and kind of making sure that they leave space in their calendar for that time. And I can't say why that the reunions kind of, if maybe we stopped going, maybe we just stopped going because of different people being here and there, or our schedules. I don't know. And wouldn't it be funny if I follow this up a few days from now and find out that yes, they're still going on, and just why haven't you guys been there? But I mean that's very possible too, since it was such a big family, and people like you say, when you're there, everyone's having such a fun time, and there's so much to learn and experience. And I know that one of my um, mom's uncles, he did magic. He had a magic show that he would do, and he did that. And he was also a doctor. So, like, he had all these talents, and that was always something as a kid that was really memorable and easy to think, wow, I can't wait to meet Jeff again, or not even really meet him, but just kind of be in his presence for this magic show that's just so mesmerizing. And yeah, I have memories of, there were people my age and older and younger, and playing together. But of course, I remember it was summertime, so it was always hot. And then of course the thing about when you're a kid and there's family reunions, you think, oh, it's so long, when this is
Oh,
going to
for
be
sure.
over. Yeah. And you have a great point about being in high school, how it's easier to, when you're older, it's easier to move around between groups, and easier to um, join conversations that maybe are already going, because you feel it's easier for you. You have more knowledge about introducing yourself, or helping everyone to make the connection of who you are, and maybe understanding who they are. And then it's easier to remember who you talked with, so that you can take that back to your parents and say, oh, I talked with so and so,
Hmm.
oh yeah. And then they fill in the gap of the information that you didn't really know about. Um,
Hmm. That's
but
true.
and I think we always had fun, and um, they were a great thing to have. And it's one of those things that probably you don't think about for a while, until the idea comes up again. Then you realize that you missed it, and then
Hmm.
maybe you realize some of the things that you missed even while you were doing them.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good point, Barney. Well, one of the things too, I think each family culture is unique and different. And what I really appreciated about the ones that we were able to have was that there was a real playfulness and a humor at the events. And it was kind of a lighthearted, whimsical atmosphere where the grandparents and aunts and uncles would joke with the younger kids and almost celebrate this, not only togetherness, but this kind of generational bond that we shared, across these generational ties. And so if there are games and if there are opportunities to have fun, and I like, for example, at our family reunions, I'll be showing some pictures of this later, but
Mhm.
we did a lot of swimming. Two of the three were happened over the 4th of July weekend, so we were able to enjoy fireworks. So the younger kids had activities that were accessible to them, but the adults were right there laughing and joking. And this atmosphere just really was warm, and it focused on appreciating each other's company and strengthening our bonds across our generations. And so it was, I really appreciated that. Um, as opposed to, like, if I think it would be harder if there wasn't the contact across generations, if it was more like, oh, the kids go over there or they should be quiet, or, I especially if you're younger, that would feel stifling. So yeah, do you have any thoughts about the family dynamics that you saw at your family reunions, and which ones you appreciated or thought were conducive to a good family reunion, or an enjoyable one?
Yeah. Yeah. Getting back, I think, of course, to the idea of how tricky these are to plan. Um, you know, I think I'm sure that a lot of people don't realize it at the time, but you're right. If there aren't enough events, like of course, it's very important just to have enough free time and open time where people can seek out the people that they want to talk to and make little groups and talk together. But yeah, there has to be some kind of schedule, or at least outline that goes with the event too, so that there can be ways for the kids to stay entertained, and for the chance to kind of break up the groups that people might naturally kind of gravitate toward, and have the chance for stories like you mentioned. The part, I think, a lot of the times that I had the sense that people were looking forward to family reunions um, as a way to catch up, with one another and what have you been doing. But I think that we also did have times where kind of the oldest generation were telling stories, and where everyone kind of did get back together in the main area, and a few people were talking or kind of hosting things at that time. And yeah, I think that that is really essential to the way that a family reunion can be memorable, and adds a lot of context because we're here as a family, and we share some everyone there shares some connection to these people who are kind of given the spotlight at this moment, since as the oldest generation. And it's that is definitely something I think that's hard for kids to understand at that time, but it's definitely something that is so valuable about family reunions. And yeah, if they're put together in just the right way, then they're really such a valuable experience, I believe.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I'm kind of wondering, now that we've laid out some broad ideas about what we liked about family reunions, if we could dive in to some specifics about what ours looked like for our video viewers on YouTube to share pictures, but hopefully
Mhm.
for our audio viewers, we can describe them to you well enough. But Barney, I know you have two pictures today that you brought. And so would you get us started a little bit?
Yeah, sure, I'd love to. Yeah. Um, yeah, I think the first one that we'll see, I think we'll just kind of do it chronologically. um, so this wasn't exactly a family reunion as much as just kind of a gathering, and I think that I was trying to place when this might be, and of course I don't know the year of when it was, but then I see the candle in the window, so it must have been in the wintertime. Because that was when we had that candle in there around Christmas season. And yeah, even though my mom, so this is my mom's sister and her family, and they didn't live, and then of course my grandma and grandfather there, and they didn't, my aunt and her family didn't live so far away, but just with schedules, she was a teacher and her husband was volunteer firefighter and whatnot, so it was hard to get together. And I appreciated that, we took the time to get out the tripod and capture this moment and take a photo, and that the photo was still around and we had the chance to digitize it. So um, here, just to describe the picture a little bit better, we have my two cousins, who I think both of them are over 50 now, and my aunt and uncle, and then my siblings and myself, and then my parents, and then my mom's mom and dad are seated all together in the family room around a nice little photo that I always remember taking we would have to set the camera on the timer, and I always thought, oh, is my dad going to get back on time to be in the picture? Because this timer, how many seconds is it before it goes, and what happens if it goes off early and we're not ready? So of course, this was when all of the cameras were with film and not digital,
Oh,
and you could never
yes.
check. You could never check to see how it looks.
It
And I think
wasn't
that
it wasn't until much later that you got the film developed that you knew if you
I
had
know
succeeded.
a good
Yes.
one or not. Yeah, right. Yeah. And I think in this picture, I think I'm intentionally making a face. I don't know what I'm doing, to be honest, but I love that my older brother Jay is on the couch in the middle. Just
I love that
has this
too.
kind of big-eyed look. But I think that the thing that I remember the most about family reunions for the layman's, and then of course whenever my mom and sister would get together, is how much fun they had talking and all of the laughter that took place. So I think that must be a real overarching
Hmm.
um, theme about family reunions. And I think maybe I'd like to follow up on this idea later on in the show. Come back to that idea of kind of overarching themes that occur.
Yes.
But yeah, let's take a look at the next photo.
Okay. Sounds good.
Mhm. And and then here, this was in 2010. Thankfully, I know that one thanks to Ayako making the memo on the corner of this one. And this was a very rare time that all of us were in Ohio at the same time, including my sister's family, since she's a teacher and lives all the way in Colorado. It was really really hard and then to get together, probably because of me, because the Japanese school year and summer dip break is different from the Ohio US one. So by the time I could get home, my sister needed to be back in Colorado to prepare for her upcoming school year. But this year it worked out for one reason or another.
Can you refresh
And
my memory? Were you married at this point?
not yet. No.
What is the year
Yeah.
of your wedding?
2013.
Okay.
Yeah. So then the script that we see on here is all in well, basically katakana, but Japanese rendering of all of our names. And then you'll see a few Chinese characters, a few kanji that indicate these various people's relationship to me. And then Ayako, my wife, took the time to prepare all of this so that her family could kind of have like a cheat sheet or a little bit of a primer for when we would all get together um, in Portland, in Oregon, for our wedding. So everyone was uh, everyone was very impressed, and sometimes I think Ayako's aunts and uncles were kind of showing this picture around. And then later, my siblings came to me and laughed and joked, and they said, why didn't I prepare an equivalent of Ayako's family for them to study?
Um,
And then that makes me think I about the main times that I've talked with people in Japan, and the notion of family reunions is much different, as people tend to get together, if possible, 2 times during the year, but it's always uh, in a very limited sense. Like, it's very rare that cousins are there at the same time, or aunts and
Okay.
uncles. Yeah, and in general, families are a lot smaller, so there really doesn't tend to be this kind of really grand idea of a family reunion,
Mm,
in that I have come across, at least in this region of Japan. It
okay.
probably varies, but yeah. So it was nice to have this memory, and then, of course, as probably this was 13 years ago. So some of the people watching now who know the people on the screen, especially my nieces and nephews, can see how much they've changed in the meantime. So
Oh,
Marley, my oldest niece, my oldest, the oldest one of my siblings, children, she's in university now. She's a first year student at
wow.
college. So what a change from then till now. But that being able to document things, like you said, with the VHS tape, and of course with lots of photos, and then finding those photos together again, and then now when they're digital, being able to put these notes on photos is other on another real nice benefit of these family reunions, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I agree 100%. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is really enjoyable. And what a great gift that Ayako was able to generate here for
Mm-hmm.
her family to have insight into your family. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, would it be all right if I shared a photo?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. This is a picture from the Dotson Salih family reunion, the last one that we ever had. This is from 1996, July 4th, 1996. And we're all gathered around my grandparents on my mom's side. That's Don and Nancy Salih. And really, in a lot of ways, they were at the center of the reunion. And I would even say, too, my grandfather's personality, he's such an entertainer. He loves to tell jokes. And um, he gave a Fourth of July speech from our balcony. And, he just loves to really be kind of at the heart of every conversation he can be at.
Uh,
So in a lot of ways, he would, if there was one person that stands out the most from the whole reunion, it would even be him. But they both were central, and that's why we're all circling around them. And then
mm-hmm.
in the lower left corner, you see my dad in a green shirt and his brother, who's all the way to the left,
uh,
holding a dog, a golden
yeah,
retriever. So
yeah,
those are the Dotsons. And then right above on my dad is that's me sitting there.
yeah.
Yeah, 16-year-old me. And then up and to the left is my Aunt Katie, who's married to my Uncle George. And then just beside her in the red shirt is my mom, Pam. We did an
Mm.
episode about her
Mm-hmm.
before. And then right next to her in the blue shirt is my sister. So
Mm-hmm.
that's my immediate family. And that whole section, it would constitute the Dotsons. And then all the way to moving to the right are all of the Salihs on the lower level, cousins, and on the upper level, siblings and spouses. Um, and all the way to the right on the upper level is another cousin. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was truly a Salih Dotson event because there were a significant amount of both families present. And setting up this picture was really something. I went back and I watched the video and I saw how long it took us to all get, assembled and like looking the right direction. And
Uh-huh.
it was another one of those things where uh, my dad used the tripod just like
Yeah.
your dad. And you have a timer and he had to get back in the
Yeah.
photo. That's why he's laying in the front because he had to run
Right.
and then lay down there. So yeah. Um, so I wondered if it would be okay to, since I had mentioned my grandfather,
Mm.
to spend a little time with a few things he said. Is that okay
Yeah.
during the
Oh, that's a
during the
great
reunion?
idea.
Because I went back and
Hmm.
I watched the video, and I actually um, I wrote like kind of a transcript of him, what he said. So I'm going to go ahead and share that screen if I can for him.
Hmm.
1 second here. So this is him when he was up on our balcony. We set up a microphone for him. My dad had a PA and a speaker, a large
Wow.
speaker, and we had a microphone for him. And yeah, and so this, like I had mentioned before, this reunion happened over the 4th of July. And so we all gathered there, and um, my dad introduced my grandfather. And then this is what my grandfather said as he stood there.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling of bonding that is possible when we have family involved is this, what we're experiencing. And I thank the Lord for the Salee Dotson clan that's going to either make or break our part of our country by our contributions. And you'll probably sense in this speech, my grandfather does have a high view of like wanting to contribute to our country. I
Mm-hmm.
guess you could say he was patriotic.
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, you guys and you gals, let's keep it going, because really it's a wonderful opportunity for us to remember that roots are the most important part of our life, our physical roots, and those roots with our higher power. So I think starting out by hugging was good. And what he's referencing there is when my dad introduced him, my dad said, I want to share a little bit of God's love with everyone today. So could everyone hug with everyone else, give a hug to everyone else. So that's what we did. So that's what he's referencing there.
Wow.
And then he goes on to say, um, praise God that we were able to get here together, and that our traveling mercies have brought us here. And while we're here, let's remember that love for each other is possibly the most important part of everything that goes on in our lives. And when we try to control other people, we're whistling Dixie. So I don't know. That must be some kind of idiom that I don't
I
quite know
guess.
the meaning of that, but I'm guessing it
Or that
means,
context. Yeah, right. Yeah.
yeah, it must mean something that doesn't result in much of
Mm.
anything, I guess. I don't know. Um, and then, he kind of draws it to a close. Um, he does have this, he's, he says, well, let's give thanks for about 220 years. I think Bryce told me, of our
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
country getting together. At
Mm-hmm.
least that's what it
Mm-hmm.
was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talks a little bit about faith. He was kind of humorous here at this point. He says, let's remember that one of these days God's going to say, well done, or he may say, I'll see you later, alligator. So then he has a prayer at the end of his speech, which is really nice. And let me see if I could, yeah, basically thanking God for the opportunity to be there, and thanking him for the gift of Jesus. So I just wanted to share some quotes from that, because it was so my grandpa, to
Oh
his
yeah.
faith came out, his sense of
Mm.
like wanting the family to be united, and his sense
Mm.
too of valuing like how we as individuals can contribute to our country. All those themes came out in his speech. And it, if I hadn't had that opportunity to be at that reunion, I mean, I might have known all those things about him. I probably would have, but
Yeah.
having a video of that reminded me just the other
Yeah.
day of a little bit more um, about him. Uh, and then the other big thing that he was into is telling jokes. And I have several of his jokes. I wondered if I could tell just a couple.
It's,
Is
oh
that
yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's one that he loved to tell. He would tell this all the time. Okay, he says, actually, I think I might have a specific slide of him telling jokes. So let me go to that one
Okay.
if I can. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, here he is. This I had to share the slide because you can see his he's kind of a little bit ornery here. Let me
Okay.
let me see if I can pull it up here. Okay. Okay. He's got this. it'll come up here in just a moment. This grin on his face that he's just so can you see it?
Oh yeah.
He's just really excited. He has a captive audience, and my Uncle George was filming the whole thing.
Okay.
And so then this was his chance to shine. So
Yeah,
here's
right.
his first joke he told. We're driving down the road, and all of a sudden, a three-legged chicken ran along the side of the car. So the driver pushed his speed up to 65 miles an hour, and the chicken ran right along with him and ran on ahead and into a farmhouse. So he followed him in, and there's a farmer standing there. And he said, I just had something really funny happen. He said, a three-legged chicken ran in here before me. And the farmer said, oh, yes, that's one of ours. He said, that's strange. Oh, the fellow said, we have 8 children and they all love chicken, but they won't eat anything but the leg and the thigh. And it was eating us out of house and home. So we decided to breed a three-legged chicken. And the fellow said, how do they taste? And he said, I don't know. We haven't been able to catch one.
Yeah, really.
Oh, oh my goodness. Um, and then my grandfather was a golfer. He had
Mhm.
numerous golf jokes. And can I just tell one more? And
Oh
then,
yeah.
yeah, okay. Um, okay. A man was playing out on the golf course, and then another man ran out of the woods and said, listen, if you ever want to see your wife again, bring $50,000 up to the 18th green tomorrow morning by 11 o'clock, or you'll never see her again. And so at 11 o'clock, the kidnapper was out on the 18th green, but no sign of the man. He waited and waited and waited. And at about 1:30, the man came up and he said, where have you been? And he said, my handicap is 28. So trying to golf the whole course by to get
Right.
there by 11, he just
I
couldn't.
love
His
it.
handicap was too great. He thought he had to golf the whole course before getting there.
Hey, if you're at the golf course, you got to play golf.
Oh, anyway. So my grandma was sitting by my grandpa and
Oh yeah.
would give him some nudges sometimes because some of his jokes were a little naughty or she'd be like,
Oh
oh Don,
dear.
or just silly. She'd be like, oh Don,
Don't tell that one. Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So yeah. So what
Oh.
about you? Were there some large personalities or, I mean, you want everybody to have space at a reunion to
Mm-mm.
be heard, but sometimes there's some prominent voices that stand out when you think of,
Mm.
the gathering. Were there people like that for you that you felt were
Yeah.
prominent?
Yeah. I can't well remember so much other than the Uncle Jeff who did the magic show, but um then just this year when my mom passed away and we had the funeral, and it gave me the chance to put faces with names again, um that I had heard my mom mention, or her sister Mary mention, or heard Christmas letters from over the years. And then um yeah, I finally met um, you know, cousin Nancy. My mom always said, oh, oh, I just got off the phone with Nancy, or this and this with Nancy, and this and this. And then I remember when we were thinking about the planning for the funeral, and Mary, my obviously my mom's sister, she said, is Nancy going to be there? And then when people were arriving, they kept saying, is Nancy here? And then I thought, wow, I know this Nancy King, but I've heard her, but I don't know that I've ever met her. And then she was, I mean, even by the time we were having lunch together afterwards, my siblings were calling her the life of the party, because she had could just tell a story, and she could just this warmth to her, but and also a very loud voice. And then she would just was so communicative through like interaction with people, through touching and hugging and whatnot. She would just pull you in, and thought, oh yeah, now I really understand and I've from I haven't seen her since every reunion, but then just these few moments that we've spent together now, I think I can't wait until summer so that I can meet her, find some way to have some excuse to get together with her again, just because it was so interesting to hear stories that she told about my mom and about Mary, and of course, about, so um, her dad and my mom's dad were brothers, and to hear those stories and whatnot, and to really fill in all of these gaps from things that I've heard from my mom and Mary talk about, and then hear from kind of the another point of view within the family, and not to mention that she was just such a wonderful person, and then um, how many times did she say to me, "Oh, you're so like her. You're so like Liz. You're just like her." And then just, I don't know, some gesture or something that I said, and she would just immediately interject. She just couldn't get over, oh, just so like her. And and then the people that she was there with, the other cousins, for her and Mary, that were together, and seeing how they all interacted together, it helped me to think that, as I was saying earlier, what if these Lehman reunions are still
Mm,
going on? It would be so neat to be able to
yes.
um, experience them now that I'm older, and can
Mm,
contribute a bit more myself. And yeah, and then again, these family reunions were so big. There were, the it was for the layman's, but there were the coffees, and there were these people and these people, second cousins, and however many times removed. And so you couldn't meet everyone at one time. There were so many people, um, but yeah, someone like Nancy, now I can understand how she really kind of was someone that people often sought out to catch up with and talk with and see how she was.
mm. Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad
Hmm.
you had that opportunity.
Yeah.
That's very
Hmm.
special. Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah. And I think, your question about wondering if these gatherings still happen really speaks to maybe the larger longing, the human longing we feel often to have connection with something larger than just ourselves, like our larger family, well, our immediate family, but then also our larger family too. And in the absence of family reunions, I think that need can kind of sometimes emerge. And um, since 1996, there have been times where I've thought, oh, I wish there was some event that would draw us back together. There have been, sadly, some funerals that have, you know, gathered much of the family together. Um, and some occasions there are happy things like a wedding, like Katie and my wedding. A number of family members came to that. So I'm grateful for those. But now that my parents have gone on, and my grandparents on my side, we have Katie's dad still on her side, and her stepmom. Um, but I do feel at times a sense of like loss, like, oh, we're a little bit diminished because we don't have that type of gathering. I mean, we still have connection in other ways, and we still have a good support system, but um, that adage, you don't know what you have till it's gone. Like,
Yeah.
since we don't have these family reunions anymore, I feel the absence of that. I can still pass on stories to my children, but that intergenerational contact in that way, like of telling of the family stories and celebrating each of the people in the family, that doesn't happen in that same way. So yeah, so I don't know if what you said was connecting with that idea, but that just kind of spoke to me, and made a connection in my own mind of that emotion, that feeling of wanting to have connection. And maybe it's also a sense of identity, reinforcing, oh, this is what it means to be in this family. This is part of who I am. And when the people aren't gathering, it feels very disconnected. There can be some connection, like through social media, if you're not seeing each other
Hmm.
regularly. I do actually stay in contact with some of my cousins through social media, and every so often I'll have a telephone call with a relative. But but it's I don't think anywhere close to what you get when you have in-person time like that. But not to dwell too long on something hard about it, I wanted to bring up something lighthearted as well, and that is the kind of funny moments and humorous things that can happen. And I have a succession of pictures that I want to share with you
Yes.
about something that we worked really hard to create. And
Okay.
so, for our video viewers, you'll be able to track along with this. But for our audio viewers, basically, what you're going to see here is the side yard beside the home that I'd grown up in, and it's
Hmm.
empty right now. And slowly, as we progress, people will be added into the frame until by the end, all the family members are there. And so this was a project we set out to do one day with a video camera. All of these are screen captures from that VHS tape I was telling you about, Barney.
Oh, wow.
So that you'll see it build as I go through it. So here we go. my my cousin Daniel, my aunt Katie, and their dog Bailey, and now we have my dad in there, and then me, and then my grandma. She made a great entrance there, and then my grandfather, and then my little cousins, Taryn and Quinn. They're no longer little, but they were back then.
Yeah.
And then my other cousin, Kevin, my uncle, Jeff. Um, let's see who is added. Oh, Jeff's wife, Annie. And then let's see. Oh, my uncle, Denny. And then my uncle, Barry. And my cousin, Brian. And then my mom is right beside me now. And then my uncle, Bob, and his wife, Leslie, and grandma got back in. And then
Yes.
finally, my Uncle George rolled out from behind the tripod, and then he joined the picture there in front. So that took a really long time, but just by showing it in a succession of slides, I was able to, do it quickly. But everybody was so proud, like, and happy. We're like, "Yay, we did it! We made this happen!" And it made me so grateful that my uncle, who is um, just a very jovial and lighthearted and fun person to be around, like, really film this and capture these moments. And then
Mm,
we had these ideas, and he, because he had that camera, helped us,
yeah.
to achieve them. So maybe that's a note that is a highlight for me. That was just a fun thing that we were able to do. That, as we talked about, family reunions is a high point that I just wanted to share. And I wanted to ask, is there anything else that you'd like to share before we close our time?
Yeah. Just it's so neat to hear your experiences, because for a long time, since family reunions, I only can think of like maybe one time or two times on my dad's side that we had them, and they were in Virginia. But then it made me wonder, I wonder if this is how unique this is, this idea of family reunions. And because I never really heard other people talk about them so much when I was growing up. But it's really exciting to hear your point of view, and how your memories and how they were for you, and thinking that, yeah, this is kind of, I don't know if it's just a Midwest thing or not, but it really is something that other people have experienced. Um and just the fun, how probably, I think that we hear, or maybe it's on TV, or social media. I know we hear a lot of, sometimes, I don't know if it's more of a recent trend or whatnot, oh, when family gets together, there's always conflict, but it it doesn't seem the case in this time. And I think that's so fun to hear your stories and hear the jokes and see the things that occurred at yours, and remembering how it was for me, and how they were just such a positive thing. And like you say, that there's nothing like being together, and what the spontaneity and the memories that come back, and the way people talk together and meet together. And that's something that just can't be replaced, as much as, even as we're doing right now. I'm in Japan and you're in Ohio. Technology can bring us together in many moments, and we can share photos very easily. There just is something um, that can't be repeated about being together as a big family. And it's neat to see that you also had the chance to experience that a few times growing up too.
Thank you, Barney, for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners for going with us on this journey today. We hope that as you have reflected on this topic, maybe it's made you think about some of your own experiences with your family. And we really appreciate this opportunity to go on this journey with you. So until next time, goodbye.